Hey everybody, hope you're all doing well. My name is Steven, and this is the Storytime channel. Today we have some entitled parent stories, and our first story of the day is by Leducinator. Entitled Mother demands extra 10 minutes for a private lesson because she can't internet. This is a story from my workplace. We have English lessons for adults and kids, and some are done on Zoom. Entitled Mother's kids take private lessons on Zoom, each for 40 minutes. Normally, there is no connection issue and the kid himself is normal, but his mother is notorious for freaking out mid-lesson and demanding to speak with a counselor, what we call receptionists, for whatever reason. Entitled Mother is what you call a tiger mom, Asian parent who drives their kid nuts over their studies. Well, this kid, we'll call him Kid, has a habit of getting up and leaving the Zoom lesson to play around or something. You know he's trying to escape because you'll see Entitled Mother dart across the camera and yell for Kid. Sorry, he went to the bathroom. 2 seconds later off camera yelling, Kid, Kid. Normally he comes back with a small grin and continues the lesson. Whatever. But sometimes it gets to the point where Kid legit gets upset and Entitled Mother is just screaming. Because Kid is losing lesson time, Entitled Mother will demand to speak with a counselor to either add minutes to the lesson or change the schedule altogether. Yesterday took the cake. Kid again decided to take off in the middle of the lesson. Again, here comes Entitled Mother yelling at him to go back. Except this time, Kid just would not budge. He flat out refused. So Entitled Mother disconnects from the Zoom lesson. We thought she was trying to get him to take the lesson, but no, actually she had zero idea how to connect her own iPad and laptop to Zoom. She called the school and started going on a tirade saying she can't connect, the Wi-Fi isn't working, Zoom isn't working, yada yada. Entitled Mother then accuses the teacher of leaving the lesson. He didn't, the Zoom room was still online and you could see the amount of time that had passed. Regardless, she demanded that we add an extra 10 minutes to the next lesson to make up for the time we wasted. Customer is God here, so of course she gets what she asked for. I'll be Japanese N3, intermediate by May, and I'll hit business level soon after that. So I'll be able to leave the industry soon, but man, some of these entitled mothers that come in here are nuts. Don't even get me started on DDSMs. Doesn't do crap, moms. With your guys' schooling, did your parents ever put expectations on the grades you had to get for each and every little thing? For me, as long as I did decently well, they never had any issue with it. It's unfortunate to hear about tiger parents like Entitled Mother, who oftentimes demand you get 100s and even like 95s aren't good enough for them. Let me know about you guys in the comments down below. Our next story is by Celtic Class. Entitled Mother says I ruined her son's birthday. I work as a coach at an axe throwing place. There are 2 ways to come throw, private booking or walk-ins. If you book online ahead of time, you'll have a lane set aside for you and a dedicated coach. Walk-ins are never guaranteed, they are first come first serve. We don't take names and numbers for walk-ins. When a lane is free, I have to take whoever is physically there. On a walk-in shift, I get a call from customer service asking if there is a wait time for walk-ins. I had a lane free and no one is waiting, so I said there wasn't. Over an hour later, the place is full, no free lanes, and we've got a few groups waiting. Enter Entitled Mother with her 2 young sons. She said she was there for walk-ins. I tell her it's about an hour wait, but we have drinks and food upstairs if she wants to wait in the building. She goes off. Steadily raising her voice throughout the encounter, she tells me she called and was told there wasn't a wait. I told her that the call was an hour ago and walk-ins are first come first serve. She says that's ridiculous. She called and was guaranteed a walk-in. I told her walk-ins are never guaranteed, but she could book a lane online. Other than that, it'll be about an hour wait. She tells me, loudly in front of other customers, that I have ruined her day and her son's birthday. I apologize, but tell her there's nothing I can do. She storms off. I get back to coaching the other groups and Entitled Mother comes back. She demands to speak to my manager. My manager was out of state at the time, which made her even more upset. She yells at me again that I've ruined her son's birthday. She finally leaves. The group I had in a lane closest to her leaves me a pretty big tip after that. Now, I'm not condoning all the things the entitled mother did, but is it weird if I do feel the entitled mother had a little bit of a point here? Obviously, they weren't guaranteed a spot. I guess what it would really come down to is how much the customer service rep actually stressed that walk-ins are first come, first serve. If it wasn't readily made apparent that by the time they get down here, if they waited a while, it might not have availability. Our next story is by Warall. Entitled mother wants her 10 cents. Once a week usually, I will stop by the local coffee shop and pick up a drink and a donut on the way to work. I make my own most days, but this is my treat day. The one near my work is right off a major highway, so it's always busy, and with the COVID restrictions, most times I end up waiting outside because of the lineup. Today was no different. There was about 10 people in line, and I got in line behind entitled mother. She got in line just before I did, but I could hear her already start as soon as she got there. "Oh my god, this place is so slow. Why do I have to wait outside?" I have my headphones on, so even though I can hear her complaining, I can easily ignore her. It took a good 5 to 10 minutes until we were even in the store, and she was complaining the whole time. "My kids are in the car getting cold. Why do they only have one person on the counter and 5 on drive-thru? I don't have time for this." I've put in my 2 years in working at a coffee shop, so I understand things can get busy, and yeah, they should probably put more people on the counter, but what are they going to do, grow a new person in the back? They only have so many people working. When we finally got in, we could see the counter girl running around as fast as she could. She definitely wasn't lollygagging or anything, but still entitled mother loudly kept complaining. There was no way the worker girl didn't hear her. Another 5 minutes and it was entitled mother's turn to order. She started with a, finally. Then she ordered a drink and a couple of sandwiches. It came to $9.90 altogether. Entitled mother gave the girl a $10 bill and then stuck out her hand for her change. "I want my 10 cents back, please. You don't deserve it." The girl just sighed, gave her her change, then made her coffee. She took it without even a thank you and went to the sandwich area to wait for her sandwich. My turn. I ordered my coffee and donut, came to about $3. But as luck would have it, I had a free coffee today, so it was only $1. Normally I don't carry much cash and I will pay with just my debit and throw them a quarter or two if I have it. But today I happen to have $5 in my wallet. As a father of 2, this surprised even me, so I handed it to her. And when she tried to give me the $4 change, I, loud enough so entitled mother could hear, said, "No thanks, you work hard, you keep it." The girl smiled and said thanks. Entitled mother looked over at me like she had just smelt a fart or something. When I opened the bag at work, there was a second donut in the bag. Never tasted so good. Hopefully entitled mother learned. She got her dime, but I got the extra donut. This is really nice and sweet of OP to do, especially when the people working there are so incredibly backed up and don't deserve the treatment entitled mother was giving to them. That said, considering how these entitled people are, I doubt this example did anything for them. And our final story of the day is by Mutton Man. Idiot roommate doesn't respect my religion and trashes my things. Background: the other day I had gone shopping for shoes. I heard about a new drop at Foot Locker, so being the sneakerhead I am, I went. Instead of buying the pair of shoes I had originally wanted, I found a pair of shoes that I had when I had gone to uni, a pair of Jordan 11s. This reminded me of the horrible roommate that I had to live with. When I had finished high school, I had a huge knack for drawing and maths. The best profession which included these things was, of course, architecture. I talked to my parents about it and they were ecstatic. So we looked for a good university and what my housing arrangements could be. I ended up going to a university which was about 2 hours away from where my parents and I lived, which was really lucky. I found an apartment which I would be sharing with 3 other dudes and I moved out. I brought a couple things with me, however. This is a good time to mention I was Muslim and proud. The place I was going to be living at was with 3 other white guys, so I knew I had to be careful. Being Muslim, it is strictly forbidden to eat anything that wasn't halal. Now, halal food is a majority of things: vegetables, fish, spices, etc. But the one thing you cannot have is pork or meat that hasn't been prepared in a halal way. So a couple of the things I had brought with me were some dishes, cutlery, and a frying pan. This is because if a surface has been touched by something not halal, haram, it is not ethical to eat from it. So I made sure to do this, or rather my mom did. I also brought clothes, shoes, and devices. When I moved in the other 3 dudes, they were so amazing and understanding. I can't stress how nice they were. They helped me set up and they understood everything I told them. So we went along with studying, and the only minor issue any of us had was how there was a spare room, but we wouldn't use it. This was in case someone else wanted to move in. We had made agreements on who cooked food on what days. I would make my own food every day because I didn't feel comfortable eating their stuff, but I cooked for everyone when it came around to my turn because 1, they loved my food, my mom's recipes, and 2, it would be extremely petty not to. Now that I've told you all the necessary things, time for the entitled bit. One day our landlord calls to tell us that a new person would be moving in with us and that he would be living in the spare room. A couple of us had started putting stuff in there as our rooms were quite small, so we had to move it. He came the next day with his parents to check out the apartment. Words can't describe how stuck up he was. He came in with his nose high and his mom behind him. They had the "I'm better than you" look and glared us down. It was a sickening sight. The very first thing he did was tell us how he wanted things to be, which, fair enough, but then it started getting out of hand. He said the bathroom was his from 8 to 9 so he could get ready for school. He said he didn't want us to cook anything with lamb because he didn't like it. He thought he also had the power to ban spices and a whole bunch of other things. I could see the look on everyone's face like, is this guy okay? The best bit was he was dead serious. He left thinking he had all the power and was going to move in next week. After they left, me and my friend started bawling our heads off at how stuck up he was and how he expected us to do that. The dreaded day came when he moved in. We told him some of our requirements for him and he blew them off. How could we expect for him to cook dinner once a week and that he couldn't have the bathroom all to himself? He was such a little crap. When I told him if he thought our rules were bad, he could just move out. The real kicker came when I told him I was Muslim. I can't remember all the slurs that were tossed at me for the next few months, but they included terrorist, bomber, how I was ruining the world, and how he always called me different things like Arab, Afghani, and Iraqi. I'm not sure he used my real name once. The worst bit was he decided to break every rule possible that I had told him. A couple weeks had passed and his petty acts kept up. He would always run to the bathroom when I had to go and he would leave it filthy for me. Pee all over the seat, toilet paper everywhere, and just making it unusable. We complained about him so much, but the landlord wouldn't do anything. All of this stuff was manageable to a certain extent, but he decided to use my not speaking up against me. One morning, I woke up to the smell of bacon. No surprise, my roommates love it and I didn't mind. I went into the kitchen to make myself some breakfast when I realized who was cooking. The entitled little turd. This was the first time I'd even seen him cooking. I walk over to grab a bowl for cereal when I realize what he was cooking with. My frying pan. I freak out, grab him by the arm and pull him away. "What the heck are you doing?" I scream. "Making breakfast," he said, with the biggest crap-eating grin imaginable. I felt like grabbing the saucepan and hitting him over the head with it. I take the saucepan and throw it into the sink with bacon flying everywhere. He looks at me with a smile and walks off. I go into my room and just sit there. I call the landlord and report him, but he says he's only been there for 3 weeks and didn't know. I just hang up. A couple days pass and I'm still fuming. He did the petty toilet peeing act again as a cherry on top, but I wasn't having it. When he got out, I grabbed his shirt and threw him at the wall. I yelled at him to do it again and see what happened. He laughed at me, saying I was too scared to do it and that I didn't have the guts. I really didn't, but I wanted him to know that I wasn't having it. His next act became stealing my clothes. I would walk into the living room to realize that he was wearing one of my shirts and hoodies or shoes. I would make him take them off, but I didn't even feel like taking them back. I warned him the next time he did it, he would be sorry, but he laughed again and said, what would I do? The tension between us only grew, and my roommate started getting worried because the next small petty thing he did, I would make sure ends up with him in the hospital. A few months passed without incident. He still sometimes slipped on my clothes as mine were nearly all name brand, but he would take it off instantly when he saw me. He wore quiet old, what you would call cheap clothes. There was nothing wrong with him wanting to wear something expensive, and I let my other roommate do it all the time. But I had zero tolerance for this jerk by this point, and he knew it. The final straw happened when he had a date with this girl. She was quite pretty, and it was so obvious that he had zero chances with her. He left at around 3 that day, but I still had some classes, so I wasn't there when he left. He came back at 7 pretty happy, and I really couldn't care. He walked in and took his clothes off and tried to go into my room. I instantly saw this and I walked in behind him. He was trying to put my shoes back. He had scratched up my Jordan 11s. I absolutely freaked out. He had creased them beyond repair, there were scratches and they were muddy. What the freak have you done? I screamed. They're only a pair of shoes, he laughed, looking at me and threw them at my feet. I swung. I know I shouldn't have hit him, it was only a pair of shoes, but what he had done to me for the past year was too much. I hit him square in the face, knocking him to the floor. We had walked into the living room arguing and everyone saw. He dropped to the floor, bleeding from his mouth. My roommates were in shock and my knuckles hurt from how hard I hit him. I called the police myself, explaining what happened. A lot of stuff went down and I got a fine and 100 hours of community service. I ended up knocking 2 of his teeth out and fracturing his jaw. I didn't receive any harsh sentence and because it was aggravated. He was charged with destruction of property for my $170 shoes and the tens of shirts he spilled stuff on, which were anywhere from $30 to $50. But it doesn't end there. The girl he had the date with came out and said he had forcefully kissed her, and he got charged with that as well. His mother said a bunch of straight messed up things about her and how she was lying and how her son would never do that. He got 2 years in jail, as well as a couple hours of community service. This was a long one and I hope you enjoyed it. Moral of the story, never crease another man's J's. As far as I'm concerned, if OP was able to provide evidence of a lot of this stuff that this entitled jerk did, I would have personally have said they had a case that they shouldn't have any sentence. 100 hours of community service because this guy was leaving the bathroom a mess right before they would go in, ruining their personal stuff by frying food in it that wasn't in line with their religion, wearing and messing up their own name brand clothing. This guy was the jerk of jerks, and a fractured jaw and losing 2 teeth was honestly an easy sentence for this guy. To me, he deserved the 2 years in jail just for the stuff he did to OP, especially because that whole thing happened over the course of a year. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So if you have a favorite story of the day, let me know which story and why in the comments down below. But besides that, if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like, and if you haven't, subscribe and turn notifications on so you'll never miss an upcoming video. No matter what you do, whether it's just viewing the video, liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, I appreciate the heck out of it. Every little thing that you do helps the channel grow that much more, and I can't thank you enough for it. So until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll be right here next time on the Storytime channel.